Hello and good evening, and welcome to the latest instalment of what I often call my Peyton Principles of Good Health. And if you're watching this live now, thank you for watching my Facebook group, Inspired Lifestyle Choices, or if you're watching it on YouTube, Peyton Principles of Natural Health, thank you. Also as a podcast or as a blog, thank you very much for joining and tuning in. And tonight I want to talk about hydration. I spend a lot of time talking about foods and good nutrition and about naturopathic approaches to different aspects of health. Today I wanted to focus purely on hydration. I think it often gets overlooked and yet is a crucial part of good health and really important. I also think there's a lot of confusion over what we mean by hydration. What is hydrating? How much do we need? You know, do we have to have these things, not have these things? What are better choices to have? So I'm trying to summarize that in the next 15 to 20 minutes for you. And as always, if you've got questions, please do come back and ask me. I'm here to answer questions you may have to take away the confusion over staying healthy in your lives. So first of all, just how much should we drink on a daily basis? Again, this is where a lot of confusion starts. As a very basic guiding principle, we should be aiming for about 2 litres. It depends on your height and your build and your activity exercise level. So if you happen to be a very petite person, and maybe just doing things like walking, maybe 1.5 litres would be sufficient for you. If you happen to be 6 foot tall and doing marathon running, well, not even just marathons, but intensive exercise at the gym, you may be needing to aim closer to the 3 litre mark. So you can see that sort of 1.5 to 3 litres as a typical guide. We shouldn't need to aim for more than that. If you're on that petite size and reasonably inactive, you know, not the intensive stuff, you know, you won't need that sort of 3 litres unless it happened to be very, very hot and you were sweating a lot. And therefore, that's, again, another reason for sort of upping the amount of fluid. So sort of putting 2 litres as the marker in the ground is typically the amount to have. Now, if you are sweating a lot, whether it's through the gym or you're on holiday or it's just hot and you're out and about, I often recommend putting a pinch of Himalayan salts into your water. The reason being is that if we are consuming a lot more fluid, then we need to be careful that we don't upset our very delicate electrolyte balance. These are our minerals that control a lot of functions in the body, and it's really important we don't dilute those electrolytes, that they cannot enter our cells and perform the functions they need to do. It can be extremely dangerous. Electrolytes are important for nerve and muscle function. And an imbalance can lead to irregular heartbeat, fatigue, shortness of breath, confusion. It can be extremely dangerous. So as we increase our fluid intake, if it's very, very hot, a pinch of electrolytes can be really helpful. Why Himalayan salts for the electrolytes? Why Himalayan is because it's not like table salt containing just sodium chloride. It contains other minerals like potassium and sulfur and magnesium and calcium. So it just helps to sort of get that balance a little bit better in the body. Now, hydration signals. Would you even know if you were dehydrated? You may think that your thirst signal is at the point when you are you need to drink more, but actually that is more likely to be when you are particularly dehydrated. I think the body can confuse the thirst signal, and we think we're hungry if we're not particularly tuned in to our thirst signal. So if you're thirsty, it could be too late, as in by then your body could be dehydrated. Something else you can do is look at your urine, not the first void in the morning, which is likely to be darker, but the ones during the day. We say they should be more sort of light straw coloured. If they're beginning to get darker, that can be a sign of dehydration. But if you're eating things like beetroot, Or if you're having certain supplements like B vitamins, these can really change the color of your urine. So don't be alarmed if you have things like that. But just generally, the lighter tends to be better. Now, what counts as hydrating fluids? This can be quite confusing. Well, in my guide, the best hydrating fluids is water and herbal teas and fruit teas, and that includes rooibos tea. All of these count towards our hydrating fluids. A lot of people count green tea as a herbal tea. It is not a herbal tea. It doesn't come from a herb. It comes from a tea plant, just like black tea does and white tea. So it does contain some caffeine, which I go on to talk about being a stimulant. It also contains something called EGCG, which can bind to iron and inhibit the absorption of iron into the bloodstream, as other things can do as well. So be careful with green tea. I know there are a lot of positive health benefits with green tea from its antioxidant properties, but it does contain some caffeine. So just be aware of that, and be, if you're going to go for it for its antioxidant properties, you really need to invest in buying some very good quality Japanese green tea, not your Twinings or something like that. If you're going to go for it for its real health benefits, it is not a herbal tea. So water's hydrating, herbal teas, fruit teas, they are hydrating. If you don't like water, you can always flavor it naturally with some berries, orange, lemon, lime, mint, cucumber, something to make it a little bit more interesting. If you like your fluids really cold, then you could keep a jug of water made up in the fridge. If you like it hot, yes, you can have a hot glass of water, maybe with lemon, maybe with ginger added as well. It will count as a hydrating fluid. You can have a little bit of plain sparkling water, particularly if it is the natural spring sparkling water, naturally carbonated. Be careful of drinking too much carbonated, fizzy sparkling water, even if it is plain. If you drink too much of that, it can create bloating and digestive discomfort. I wouldn't use that as your main hydrating fluid. You want it to be plain water, ideally. It might be a good idea to invest in a water filter so you can filter out some of the rubbish that's in our tap waters today, and try and get it as pure as you possibly can. If you want to buy water, we need to think about the environment with all the plastic, and it's expensive. So, having a filter and a jug where you filter your own water would be a good investment and a good thing to do. Now, squashes and fruit juice and fizzy drinks. First of all, most of these are sugary, and we need to limit the sugars in our diet. As we know, you may be very careful not having lots of sugars in your diet, but be aware of the sugars in your drinks. A can of, not low sugar, but a can of fizzy drinks, some of those can contain more than 30 grams of sugar. That's the same amount of sugar that the NHS advises to have as part of your daily diet as a maximum. So that if that's before you add in what you're getting from your starchy and sugary foods. It's an absolute no-go in my book. Fruit juices as well. Be very careful of fruit juice because of the sugar content. A glass of fruit juice can contain 8 to 12 grams of sugar. And if you don't have the fruit juice where it retains the fiber, it is most definitely not one of your 5 a day without that fiber. So be careful of the orange, of the sugar content. Some of those fizzy drinks, without mentioning brands, some of the darker coloured ones contain something called phosphoric acid. Have a look at the ingredients list. Phosphoric acid can make your blood, as it's an acid, it can make your blood more acidic. We have to very carefully watch the blood pH level. And if your blood gets too acidic, it can leach calcium from your bones to alkalize your blood. There has been some studies to cite phosphoric acid in soft drinks as a risk factor for menopausal women. Of course, menopausal women losing their estrogen, more prone to osteoporosis later in life. So be very careful. In my view, fizzy drinks have no part to play in a healthy diet. I guess it's fortunate I just don't like them anyway, but you really need to treat these as a very, very occasional treat if it's something that you really, really love. Now, low-calorie drinks, a lot of people choose those. They think it's a healthier option because you haven't got the sugar. You need to be really careful of these artificial sweeteners. I know they are approved for use, but there is some more evidence and studies coming out about some of the negative aspects to do with these artificial sweeteners. There's quite a range of these that have been approved for use in the UK and in other parts of the world, in America. But only this month, in July 2023, the World Health Organization say they're going to declare aspartame as potentially carcinogenic. That means it has the risk of being cancer-causing. As I said, I don't think they've got any place in the diet, fizzy drinks or artificial sweeteners either. But aspartame can be found in quite a lot of our in our drinks, our low-calorie drinks. So look out for those. Find alternatives if you can, or just naturally flavour your drinks yourself. Other research suggests that these artificial sweeteners can confuse the brain. They confuse the brain to actually want more sweet food or encourage you actually to eat more. It confuses the signals in the brain. So rather than encouraging us to lose weight, they could encourage us to gain weight. So there's research to do with that. And as a gut expert, there are studies showing that artificial sweeteners are not beneficial for the gut microbiome, can damage beneficial bacteria, and therefore can create space for more pathogenic bacteria to thrive and grow. So low-calorie drinks, also no place in my book as part of a healthy diet. Again, keep them to a treat, just like you would with your sweet foods. Now, coffee and tea is the final thing I want to talk about. The most up-to-date research would include tea and coffee as part of your daily fluid intake, as part of that 2 litres a day. They say they're not dehydrating, but they do have a mild diuretic effect. I know if I drink coffee, it's likely to make me want to go to the toilet shortly afterwards, unlike them when I have a glass of water. They have a mild diuretic effect. I would say as a maximum, you should drink no more than 3 to 4 tea-stroke coffees in a day. I would aim for the best quality coffee that you can find. Don't go for the instant stuff. The other reasons why we need to be careful with teas and coffees is that they have a mild stimulating effect. What that means is they stimulate the adrenal glands. They create a stress response in the body, as if we don't have enough stress in our day-to-day lives, encourages the secretion of adrenaline and cortisol, puts the body into a stress response mode. We don't need that, do we, in our day-to-day lives? So another reason for minimizing your intake. They also contain compounds that can upset our digestive secretions, so we want to watch that. And tannins and caffeine to a degree can also bind to minerals, just like I mentioned with green tea, bind to minerals and inhibit the ability for those minerals then to be absorbed from the gut into the bloodstream. So you could be eating really good quality food, rich in calcium, iron, magnesium, zinc, etc. Yet if you happen to have a cup of tea or coffee at the time or close to the time that you're eating these foods, it can upset your digestion and it can reduce the ability to absorb those minerals from your food. So you should definitely have your teas and coffees well away, at least an hour either side of your meals, and just reduce your intake overall. I don't promote decaffeinated versions. For me, if I want coffee, I want good quality coffee, which I enjoy, but in small amounts. But the decaffeinated ones use chemicals to remove the caffeine, and they also contain compounds like theobromine. So you've got other chemicals in the decaffeinated versions. Yes, it might have taken away the caffeine, but you've got other chemicals that the body has to then deal with and detoxify. I'd rather have a couple of good quality cups of coffee, have them well away from meal times, and don't have them close to bedtime because of the stimulating effect that they can have. It's why people struggle to get to sleep. So in summary, we want to be aiming for about 2 litres of hydrating fluids a day. You may want up to 3 litres. If you're particularly sporty or you're sweating a lot, hydrating fluids, mostly water, you can flavour it naturally. You can have herbal and fruit teas. Have 2 with an absolute maximum of 4 cups of tea and coffee a day as part of that 2 litres, maybe 3 litres of fluid a day. And I really don't think that fizzy drinks, artificially sweetened drinks, and squashes should have a place, a regular place in your daily fluid intake. Try and keep them for more occasional drinks. So I hope that's been helpful to you. Do let me know with comments and feedback. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful week.